guys getting baked at 14, 15 because there was such a stigma. Like you were going, when I was in high school, like you were going to fucking jail. Like you were a bad boy going to bad boy jail. Like, whoa, like kids that smoke cigarettes at like lunch, I thought, like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like teachers are watching you. And I remember the kids had to lobby for like actual like cigarette time. Like it was this big student union thing. Like we need to go have our smokes.
Yeah.
And I remember at 16 going, you're fucking 16. This is not the thing to be lobbying for. Let's get out of here at 2:00 instead.
Yeah.
Instead of lobbying for a 15-minute window at noon to smoke, let's get out of here at 2.
I think you're a product of your own environment because I grew up in a neighborhood where it was like, it was totally okay. There was no such thing as a clique in my high school. The complete washout stoners hung out with the captain of the football team.
Which
and
further is bizarre that you felt like you didn't fit in.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to drive you to drink after this. I'm gonna
No. I mean, you're right. I mean, I guess, like I said, I don't know if it's that I didn't feel like I fit in because I certainly wasn't like a bullied kid, or I don't want to, and I don't want to be insulting to kids who had to go through some serious, trauma growing up. But I definitely wasn't like what I thought I should be in my kind of unformed 15-year-old mind.
The hole in us that is an addict that we try to fill with booze and drugs, and you realize, no, the hole that is me, and the only way out is through and embrace this open space that I've been trying to pound fucking coke and booze and ecstasy into for the last decade.
Sure. And that's what people do. People deny that too, but now there's conclusive and ample science that shows it. Like your brain, Jay, my brain, just a little different. Every kid, a lot of kids out there that grow up to be 30-year-olds that are listening to this podcast, drank an S load in college and in high school and smoked weed every day for their 20s, and they just figured out how to like work out of it. That wasn't the way it was for me. It was magical to be able to not be in my own skin for a while, and that's because my brain chemistry is just different.
I was always comfortable in my skin, and I just drank because I loved being buzzed, and I loved smoking grass because I loved getting high.
Yeah.
And like I loved Vicodin because I explained to you on Loveline when I took Vicodin and it first kicked in. It's like when if you drew the tiny motion of sound on a tuning fork, that's how it made my body feel.
Yeah.
Like this golden hum.
That's nice.
And it felt fucking great. But when I smoked grass for the first time, I was like 19 at a beach house at the Jersey Shore with like 8 other guys, and I sat in a recliner, and I had a similar experience. I'd smoked it like 3 times before. It didn't work. But I look back at my life, and I go, wow, if I smoked pot in high school, I would have been a state champion wrestler. Because, whenever you smoke grass, not combining it with booze, but when you smoke grass, you mind fuck yourself into like, you know what, I'm going to smoke grass, I'm going to fucking finish a screenplay. And there are people that are incredibly productive.
Yeah.
I was one of those guys, like, I'll just smoke grass and I'll write Gasping for Airtime. I wrote that entire book on Northern Lights. The whole book. And I would put on the CD of the musical guest that was on Saturday Night Live of when I was writing about.
Right.
Like, I'd put on Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream and just write about that entire 10-day experience. And I would put on, but if I smoked grass at 15, high school, I would have gotten algebra. I would have figured that shit out. I would have been like, oh, I get it, bro.
Yeah. I wasn't.
You combined it with booze, and you were a maniac.
And it wasn't even that. It's just like I get uber focused on stuff when I get high. When I wouldn't combine it, but that would be so fleeting because it'd be like I'd start stuff, I'd be 15 minutes of
manic,
real focus, and then it got to the point where I was like, I couldn't do anything but watch Jenny Jones, and it was like I hit a wall.
We're gonna open tanning salons with an exercise routine in the back, so you exercise, then you go right into the tanning booth. Oh my god, I can't believe they found out they were cousins.
There you go, exactly.
When did you start doing speed?
That was like later in high school, like right before I graduated high school is when like I finally broke down.
Yeah.
And got into like stimulants, and then it was over because then I moved to San Francisco.
Was it stimulants for like football? Like
no, like I tried speed, which was huge in my like neck of the woods in the late 90s. It was like speed is just taken over, and then I tried that, and it was over because you think you have focus and are devoted to bad ideas when you can take a bong load. Do a tenth of some really good meth, and you will plan out how you're going to rob a bank. And it's not like, no, this is a dumb idea, but if we ever, you're robbing a bank.
This is where the air conditioning vents are.
Yeah.
This one has a screw missing. We can come into the air conditioning vent. This teller is always on his phone. Really?
CJ, you have to understand. We need capital before we can make capital. All we need one RPG. We're pulling this off. You know.
A buddy of mine once told me. Chappie once told me. He said, "When you do," and I was never a speed guy. Can you imagine me on speed? Ugh.
But I bet you. And sorry to interrupt.
Calm me down.
But I bet you're like me. There's the dudes that are normal people where it's like and Tom Arnold and I had this conversation too. You take a rail, a coke, or a blow, or some meth, and you're talking everybody's ear off, and you're going from 10, and you think every girl. I was the guy who was like that before, and as soon as I got some stimulants in me, I was chill.
Tom Arnold told me the same thing, that when he did coke, it made him calm.
Yeah, and I was the same way. And it's
probably if I smoke grass, I'm walking around like I'm doing shit. I'm a hyperactive maniac. Like I can't stop talking. Worse. Like it makes me, like my heart starts racing like crazy. And I remember, how many times have I been stoned sitting on the toilet for an hour taking my own pulse going, why is my pulse 120 if I'm sitting on the toilet? This is crazy.
No, it does elevate your heart rate. And that's why I used to get really scared. I'd take a bong load, eat some hydroxycut back in the day when it still had ephedrine in it. And I'd eat some hydroxycut and then go to the gym. And I was a maniac. I was, Howie Long at his peak. Just deadlift 500 pounds. But then I'd seriously be sitting in my car debating whether or not to go to a payphone and call 911. Because I'm like, my heart's going to come out of my fucking chest. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so many times, once I learned how to cook rock, once I really
All right, now we're cooking.
That's when I I moved to the East Coast.
I like how you say speed and we're just listening, and then you go, because when you're smoking meth, and me and Maddie are like, whoa, we thought you meant speed, like just a rail of coke at a party.
Speed was around in the late 90s, and it was around like in the east side of Los Angeles County where I lived and grew up. Then I moved to San Francisco, and like it was still huge there, and the ecstasy scene was coming up huge. So I would do either or pretty much every day. The guy I lived with was from Santa Cruz, and he had nonstop acid. It got to the point where I didn't pay for acid. He just always had it. So I was constantly on a stimulant or eating acid from 98 to like 2000. There was never, like, I could count on one hand how many times I didn't use acid or ecstasy or meth on one hand that many days.
That to me is like, you have a way different brain than me, because acid to me was like such a journey. And it was like being on wild horses. I never had that trip where you just lay on your back and next to a brook and you look up at the clouds and you're like, this is great. No. I was always herding cats.
Yeah.
I was spinning 40 plates, and I did everything in my power to not come completely undone every time I took acid.
It happened once where I lost it. I actually lost my mind, and then that was summer of 2000. I never did acid again. There was another 2 solid years of heavy use, and I just didn't use acid because we were leaving. It was summertime, so I just moved back to LA from San Francisco, and my life was in shambles. I had nothing going for me, so I was just like working kind of like construction jobs, hanging drywall, trying to figure out my life. And my friend had a vintage Jeep Wrangler with the top like taken off, and it was like 100 million degrees in August in LA, and we're like, Vegas trip, it's on. So he took. We all got 4 of us in his Jeep, bunch of ecstasy, and we had acid. So we started eating the ecstasy right when we left. So we're leaving Pasadena. We ate a couple hits of ecstasy. He's turning on like the awesome tunes. We're on the freeway. Life has never been better. We're in the back going 80 on ecstasy, just rocking out, fist pumping, the whole deal. Then we get to about State Line. I'm like, it's time for me to take some acid. It's on. So I eat acid. Everything's fine. I start to trip, and I'm well at this point. I'm like a veteran acid user. Everything's fine. I got into the first casino. We were at the Paris. We parked at the Paris. We walked in, and then things were like, and all the lights hit me at once, and it was one of those things I'd never experienced it on a trip where it's like it was just too much. It was sensory overload, and I fucking lost it. I started screaming. I started telling my friend to help me.
In French or English?
No, I was like,
Zut alors, sacre bleu.
And drool's just flying out of my mouth, and he's like, you gotta calm down. We're gonna get fucking arrested. You gotta chill the fuck out of it. I can't, dude. I can't. So they get a room. They take me up there and they put me in the bath. They thought that was somehow a good idea.
To me, it makes sense.
Yeah. So I was kept splashing water on my face. I'll never forget that. I was in my clothes. I was in these like old like 90s baggy jeans, like splashing clothes.
Like you were on a different world.
Yeah.
Your fucking Kadeem Harrison outfit.
Exactly. I had like like old beat up Vans and baggy jeans
Your
on.
FUBU sweatshirt.
Yeah, my sweatshirt that said like it was like a starter like Dodger sweatshirt. I'm sure.
No doubt. I
That
love
said
it.
like Dodgers in graffiti or something super 90s like that. You know.
That's so funny you said the Paris, because me and Charlie, my buddy Charlie, who was on episode 2 a little bit, we were driving to Vegas once, and I had the exact same thing happen to me that when I got to the Paris, actually, it was about 40 minutes out of Vegas, I started coming undone. And it was like, what if we get pulled over? What if there's traffic?
Yeah.
Like things that you just go, well, then there's fucking traffic. You just sit there and hang out. But like, no. But when you're on acid, everything, it's like, no. What if there's traffic?
Yeah. It's so important.
Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, no, then we'll just sit here. No. What if there's traffic?
You're so right.
It was 110 degrees outside at night, but we had the air conditioner blowing on our face. And I started coming undone when I realized I was driving. The left side of my face was hot. The front of my face was cold. The right side of my face was average. And in my mind, I had broken my head up into thirds. And I'm like, the left side of my skull is 110 degrees. The middle of my face is 68. And the right side is like 76. I have to fucking pull this together so my head is one temperature. Like, this is why you're driving. Like, how the fuck are you going to swing that?
Yeah. No, it's not good for your brain.
But it was the Paris. And when we got to the Paris, all I could think of was, I'm going to get to my room. I'm going to jerk off. First, I'm going to take a shit.
Yeah.
I'm having a panic attack, so I have to shit. Then I'm going to jerk off. Then I'm going to take a bath. Nice. Without my clothes, unlike you. Then I'm going to jerk off again. Then I'm going to get under the blankets. And I'm just going to fucking ride it out. Yeah. When we get to the Paris, I took French in high school. I speak a little French. I go up to the front desk. I'm together right now. I'm together. And I go up, salut madame, j'ai besoin mon chambre, pour mon meilleur ami. Me and my best friend were like a room. And because apparently I nailed the accent. Yeah. And this lady was from Paris. She thinks I'm fluent. And she just looks at me and goes, like, tell him Large Mart sent you, but in French.
Yeah. You think she's from Henderson.
No, I knew, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you got fucked.
Fucking French.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, all I know how to is say that shit. I practiced it since I started bugging out. And we're there for like an hour, and people are checking it. So it's just so funny you said the Paris. The exact same thing happened. And once, KP Anderson told me a story. He was on acid, and I think he was with Mitch Hedberg.
Nice.
And he was doing stand-up, and he's on stage. And after every joke, Mitch Hedberg goes, oh my God, KP Anderson tripping on LSD, telling jokes in Las Vegas. But like he has a 20-minute set.
Yeah.
And after
so he said it 400 times.
Yes.
He might have been saying cheek a minute.
And then KP walks off stage. Brilliant comic, great writer, great producer, KP Anderson. He walks off stage and he goes to Mitch and he says he grabs him by the fucking collar and goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he goes, what? And he goes, oh my God, KP Anderson doing acid. And Mitch goes, I said that out loud. It's so amazing how everything... Family Guy really crushed it when they licked the frog and they were all tripping balls on acid. And the one kid goes, oh my God, everything's so relevant. And I'm like, that one sentence.
You hit it right on the nose. Like everything just is important. Like you have to have a conversation about it. I remember as saying like, just tripping and looking over at my friend. We're like, we need to go rent Clockwork Orange. And this is, when you actually rent movies. And he's like, yeah, it's a good idea. And then we decided we were going to walk down to Blockbuster, which was about a half a mile away. But then I was like, wait, what if someone's already rented it? Then we're walking for no reason. He's like, well, what? I mean, there's no problem if we could just try and check it out. I mean, no, but what if it's not there? What if we go down there and it's not there? There's a good chance someone's already rented it. There's only one copy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can't.
It's high drama.
Yeah, you can't you can't temper shit when you're on acid.
I almost said this before, and I got to get to it real quick. My friend Chappie told me when you're on speed, because I never did. He tried to explain to me what it's like if you're like just. I'm not saying he was a crackhead, but like if you smoke a ton of fucking crack and you're sped out, you know everything. Right. He said you could literally be on the 5 freeway and see someone's fucking plane has broken down at the John Wayne Airport, and you'll get out and go, "What do you got? A broken plane? What do you? Why don't you just?" And you'll fucking tell them how to fix their fucking airplane. That's what you're telling me.
And you're so confident mechanically. Like I'm not a handy guy.
Airplane.
I'm not a handy guy.
But if I showed you a biplane and said, we were going to take this up. We're going to drag a fucking Corona banner across Will Rogers Beach,
Right.
but I can't get the plane in the air. You're telling me
Right
on
now,
meth,
now, I'd say, well, I don't really know anything about
Right.
the workings of a plane. If I was on crack, I'd be like, well, let's at least take a look. Pop a cigarette in my mouth, pull the hood open. I don't know. And, like, yeah, man, it looks like we got some trouble here with the ball
But do
bearings.
you admit you know nothing before you open the
Oh,
hood?
no. Oh, no, you know it. You're faster than Michael Johnson. You're faster than Usain Bolt.